This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to Wrestling with Tragedy, case number 00117, part 2 of the XPW story. Once again, I am joined by the silver-tongued two-man power trip, the third man in on Wrestling with Tragedy, Mr. John fucking Paz.
Hello, hello. How you doing? What's going on, Pierce? What's going on?
Hey, not much. Also, you know, it's me, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, the fucking beautiful Piers Austin, all the way from down under, getting your radio airwaves and podcast airwaves going on this cold Sunday here in Sydney, Australia. But
cold. What?
Yeah,
cold.
It's fucking cold here, bro.
How is that possible? What?
Bro,
it's reversed, isn't it? Reversed the season? Yeah, okay.
Yes, bro. Yeah. You're in
I was gonna say it's like 77 here.
I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. But
it's really hot.
It's really hot. It's fucking hot. In the United States, we just want to give a special shout out to our boy Kingpin Angel. He will be joining hopefully us a little bit later, but we are going to get it started off. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank those sponsors that help us keep the lights on up in this bizitch. First off is healthvape.com. This is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore the energy while giving you the vital boost you need to get through your day. Check out healthvape.com. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Next up is that sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS, sleefs.com. If you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to go and check out Sleefs. They've got everything covered for you, all your athletic wear needs. They've got armbands, compression bands, compression shorts, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes that you've heard us raving about non-fucking stop. So guys, go and check out Sleeps. Go and check out those dirty fucking boxes and use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Huge round of applause for Sleeps and Health Vape, the official sponsors of Wrestling with Tragedy. Woo. Dude, XPW. We covered it last week. We're covering it again this week, part 2. There was a lot of meat on the bone in this one, John, I feel. Do you agree?
Yeah, it was so much other things we didn't get into, or so many other hot button topics. Like, we talked about some of the stuff that was going on, but there's more stuff going on backstage that we kind of even could have gotten into even further, just about like, okay, there's porn going on, there's wrestling going on, they're filming people backstage pissing on each other, but then, in front of the ring, there's wrestling. I mean, there's extreme, and there's, and then there is XPW. You know what I mean? They take it to another level. There's no doubt about it.
I completely agree, bro. Like their style of pornography, I've never actually seen it. I've heard about it. I said this on the last thing. Yeah. It's not really something that I really want to fucking sit there and watch while I'm, doing what grown men do. But yeah, to me, like XPW, we covered off the Messiah story, right? So Messiah getting his thumb chopped off.
Yep.
They've gone there. He cracks a fish tank over the assailant's head. One of the people he identifies is actually an XPW worker who I've been told there is no way in the fucking world that this guy would have taken part in that said activity. But there's so much more that goes to unravel here, because do you remember the indie wars of like the early 2000s?
With ECW, XPW, CZW, all that nonsense?
Yeah, that's correct. It was CZW, Ring of Honor, XPW, I think 3PW in there, and I think ECW were kind of out at that stage.
Yeah, they were out, and yep.
So, going into it, like, it was this rival thing. And I think as well, like, if you look at the product of what I think what CZW was doing on the East Coast and what XPW was doing on the West Coast, it's just massive difference as far as what their product goes. CZW, I found, was more violent. There was a lot more. It was more bloody and gory and blood and guts. Some great wrestling that we saw there as well, and some deathmatch wrestlers that really were able to incorporate, both, sound wrestling, but also some deathmatch, gimmicks as well. XPW, on the other hand, their matches were pretty extreme, but like they didn't seem as violent as their east side counterparts. Would you agree on that, John?
Yeah, it almost felt like CZW was trying to make sure that they were like the most violent, obviously ultra violent, but they were making sure that people didn't kind of homogenize it and put everything together like, oh, we're just deathmatch. I mean, they really tried to be the bloodiest, the goriest, the cage of death. They tried to be the craziest. I mean, you had death matches, and then you had like CZW. I know XPW had the scaffold matches and the crazy shit like that, but I feel like CZW was much more blood and, to pardon the term from AEW, but much more blood and guts.
I think what XPW was more of like a step above what ECW was and what CZW was. And even Tommy Dreamer has said this is like, like CZW is what ECW should have gotten to, if that makes sense. Like, and he even said like, those crazy motherfuckers blew what they did in ECW out the fucking water. But I think ECW was definitely the catalyst and the starting point for these promotions. But getting back into XPW, Shane Douglas. Let's cover off Shane Douglas's involvement, because I know that you know Shane quite well. So Shane Douglas's involvement, he kind of turns up in one of their earlier shows in 2000, cuts this infamous promo to Bill Bush. Fuck you, Bill Bush. Calls him on the phone. Yep. You've spoken to Shane multiple times. What was his memory of that promo, and what was the reasoning behind it? Do you know?
Honestly, what he said was that it wasn't planned or anything. It just kind of happened, but it was like kind of Candido egging it on a little bit, and him kind of, saying, "Oh, do this, do that." And it was kind of almost like getting him fired up. And then he was like, "You know what? F it. I will do it." You know what I mean? It was almost like Candido was like, "Do it," like nudging him, and then he's like, "Fuck it." You know what I mean? So it was partially Candido's fault, but partially Shane just going, screw it. I'll do whatever the hell I want. I don't give a damn. I'm so pissed off at WCW at this point. Eventually, he does end up going back to WCW, to the dying days. But he was definitely embroiled in a little bit of a, I don't know, hit and run or whatever, like stop and go, start and stop with WCW.
I feel like Shane is the kind of guy that never minces his fucking words, and if he's gonna say it, he's gonna fucking say it. I remember watching that promo and going, "Holy fuck! Like, what the fuck is going on here?" Because I got this DVD like a year, this VHS actually, and I got it like a year later. So I was like, "Oh, what the fuck?" You know what I mean? Like, this was insider shit that, like, because the internet was kind of becoming a thing back then, right? You know what I mean?
But it wasn't not as prevalent as it is now. Like, it's hot, yeah.
No. But like, as far as like, Shane's involvement of XPW, because he does come back to XPW. He aligns, in storyline, he aligns himself with Lizzie Borden. Rob Black is kind of ousted and goes behind the scenes more. And then they kind of decide to take XPW. And to me, I think this was probably like the nail in the coffin really for them, is when they moved from like the West Coast to the East Coast. They started doing shows in Pittsburgh. They signed an exclusivity agreement with the ECW arena. I believe the numbers, and you may know them better than I do, but I think he had to pay like $60,000 down. And it was like as a deposit, and then it was like 10 grand every month. Or it was like a ridiculous number for a venue. Like, it's kind of like, would you even make that at the gate back, bro? You know what I mean? Like, are you
not
gonna
at that time period? Yeah. Yep. It's gonna be tough.
Well, you know what, you think of that time period, like CZW run a show, there, and I know this is an XPW series, but there's going to be comparisons to CZW and XPW because there was a lot tied up with both companies back then. But CZW, they had their Cage of Death 3 tournament held there, and that was 2001, and they had the place sold out. Like, completely sold out, to a point if you've never seen the card, John, I recommend you go and at least go watch the main event of that show, because the crowd in there was just it was just electric. And then at the end of the match, with the surprise having the Sandman come out underneath the ring and stuff like that. But CZW was selling out the arena with no named talent from ECW and that being advertised, and XPW couldn't, and they had an abundance of former ECW talent now working for them. Why do you think that East Coast fans didn't resonate with XPW?
Oh, it might be just the East Coast, West Coast thing. CZW is kind of like the home territory or whatever, the home league that they got into after ECW. Plus, it's almost like too much wrestling in that building, even till to today. Like they'll have Impact there one week, MLW there one week, New Japan one week. It's like almost too much in that building and too much for the fans. So it's like, okay, they already see CZW, they're already kind of attached to CZW. You can't have another league come in and run the same venue. It's like overkill almost for the area. You kind of dry up the audience and the crowd, but it definitely has the West Coast versus East Coast thing. Like, this is my home league. I'm going to go see CZW. Oh, XPW's trying. Oh, now they got Shane in. He's going to be the booker. Cody Michaels has come with him as one of the bookers. It's just like, almost like it's not their home league, basically.
Yeah, I get that as well. But also the thing that I found interesting is you see a lot, and it's probably more in indie wrestling today, where it's like you can see the same talent on 5 different shows on back-to-back weekends. You know what I mean? So why would you? And the thing is, as well, what they did, that there was no talent being mixed over from CZW to XPW. So much so, I think that the point where Justice Payne, who was the brother of Nick Gage, who passed away about a year or two ago, Justice Payne was contacted. He was kind of like CZW's franchise. He was like the Shane Douglas of CZW. So he was offered a contract to go over to XPW. So what he has said, and what I'd heard him state, was that he and his fiance at the time, which later went on to be his wife, wanted to buy a house. They wanted to, they said they needed $5,000 or 10 grand. And Rob was contacting him saying, "Hey, I want to bring you across. He's like, no. Then he said, "Fine, look, what do you like? This is what I need. I need $5,000 up front. I need to get, this much per booking, and I need to be on this many bookings per month with you." And Rob agreed to it and sent him a contract. But when he left, people were pissed that Justice Payne, CZW were pissed that Justice Payne went over there. They almost felt like he was, a traitor. And it was the conversation I had with Messiah, he actually told me that he left him a voice message saying, "Dude, I'm not mad. Go make your money. Just be careful." You know what I mean? Just watch yourself. Don't get involved with shit. And he goes, and when Justice Payne came back to CZW, the boys were like, "Yeah, cool. We'll have him back, but we're not putting him over. He's got to sort of come in and earn his spot back."
Hey, makes sense. You got to go where the green is, and obviously for your family, what's best for you. But I could see the CCW faithful giving him more of a hard time than the boys. Yeah, the boys won't put him over immediately, and he'll have to earn his spot back. But the fans are like the loyalty is all with you left. Even like ECW, remember Taz would leave, and the fans would kind of turn on him for a little bit. Dudley's leaves, and they hate him. It's just a natural thing for those fans that they feel like their attachment to the wrestlers, and the wrestlers should be loyal to them, but they don't realize, hey, maybe CZW's not paying a lot, or maybe ECW's not even paying the guys. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so it's all about the money. And if you're in the business for anything other than money, we have a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, but I also think that a lot of fans probably build up more drama in wrestling than what it actually is backstage. It's
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, oh, this person did this, this thing, and they'll probably you know what? Afterwards, it was probably handshake, hug. All right, cool. We good, dog? Yeah, we're good. Let's move on. You know what I mean? That's what it probably is in a lot of cases.
But Rob was trying to steal him away too. And I think the fans realize he's, he might not have the best intentions. He really just wants to steal our best guy or our top guy away.
Yeah. And I'm sure that was the reason as well, because Justice Payne, You know what I mean? Was he the greatest worker in the world?
No.
No. But he had a name. He was an overheel that got a great reaction. And I think bringing him in, I'm not sure if you watched a lot of the XPW product, but do you think that him coming in was worth the money that Rob spent?
No, definitely not. There's really no name value because they're trying to expand the brand, the VHS tapes, the DVDs, like trying to expand the brand. Would you ever put him on the front? Maybe in a small picture with like Supreme or something, but the franchise would be on the front, or even like Juventud would be on the front or something. You know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily the guy that would be like on the front and center of the DVD. So probably not worth it if you really think about it. But I guess to steal him from CCW, you got to give him, a little bit of something if it hurts CCW.
Yeah, I mean, well, when it happened, like, because they also had Josh Prohibition and Matt Cross, who went over to XPW as well. And I remember seeing a CCW show where the backseats come out, the backseat boys, who was a tag team with Johnny Cashmere and Trent Aston, for those who don't know, came
Team.
out.
Great team.
Yeah, amazing team. Amazing team. They came out and basically cut a pretty harsh promo on Josh Prohibition and Matt Cross, telling them to go fuck themselves and they're not welcome back here and they're traitors. And again, I think that's just the boys going, you know what, like let's milk this a little bit. Let's get the marks in the audience behind it, because I really think that at the time indie wrestling was so fucking hot, because it was like the other options were WWE, and WWE at the time's booking was starting to get pretty bad.
Absolutely. And ROH in 2002 was coming up. Obviously, this would be a little bit later, but ROH was coming up. So I mean, they had some hot indie leagues going for sure.
But the thing is, as well, like a lot of the talent weren't sort of mixed and matched back then. As I said, it was like you had ROH guys, you had CZW guys, you had XPW guys, and I'm sure they may meet at the bump into the occasional indies and stuff together. But XPW being mainly West Coast, but going back to Shane Douglas coming in, do you think that once they got over to the East Coast, do you think they went, holy shit, we're out of our league here? Because majority of their talent was local West Coast talent. Then they started bringing in the ECW talent. But one thing you have to give Rob credit for is, like, it wasn't he brought in these ECW talent. We saw like Balls Mahoney versus Sandman, or the Vampiro versus the Juventud Guerrero. It was they mixed guys up, and they really knew how to build guys up. And I think looking at their first deathmatch tournament, which was Baptized in Blood, My Bloody Valentine, I think it was called, the quality of production sucked. Like, it was shit. I won't. But as far as the show goes, it was to put over Supreme, and I think it put him over. Like, he went through guys like John Cronus, Axel Rotten. Like, there was some known names in that tournament, and he went over him. And it was the same thing with Joey Chaos. You know what I mean? They built him up as the television champion, had him beating guys like Danny Doring, Vampiro. He beat a lot of guys for that title.
But when they do that and you're building up your own guy, it also is like, okay, they keep using ECW guys that we've seen. So I don't know, to me it's like good you're trying to build up your own guy, but then you're using the other guys. I don't know, it almost seems like a retread a little bit just with your guys mixed in. So you know what I mean? Like, you put it in the ECW arena, it felt like a retread.
But the thing is, as well, like, do you think Rob wanted to be Paul Heyman?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, if you talk to Rob, apparently he was supposed to be part owner of ECW at one point. If that story is true, well, he says it, and I think it's on the Dark Side of the Ring too. That they were like in talks because he was at back of the show. They thought they were going to have some relationship. Heyman cut it off, and then that really started like this feud with him. Like, oh, I'm going to get back at him. I'm going to put ECW out of business. I'm going to go back. We're going to go to their show and call it a fight, and you're going to have this brawl backstage. I mean, it just seemed like whatever happened with Heyman and Black, they were friends. They turned on each other. I don't know the real truth behind it, but they turned on each other apparently, and they got into this feud. And then all of a sudden, Rob was like, "Fuck it, I want to become Heyman, and I'll eventually really migrate to Philly." It felt like he wanted to be Paul.
Do you think Rob Black is just the mark with money.
No, it's tough to say. I don't. When people say that, I'm always like, I don't know, because if there's a ROI, if there's a return on the investment, if he was actually making money on it, can't say that. Like people were saying about Tony Khan, oh, he's just a market money. But if we looked at his books and he was making money, it's one of those things where it's like, I guess you can't really say that if the guy's. I don't know if he is or isn't, by the way. But I'm just saying, if Rob was making money, like, was he a porn mark? Well, he's supposed to be made all his money in porn, so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's a good business venture if you're making money. If not, you could say like, oh, he's just a mark with money. So I don't know. That's a tough one because if he was making money with XPW, which I'm not sure, maybe the DVD sales or maybe the VHS sales, something. Eventually, we would find out the mounting legal troubles and everything else that was going on. He was losing money, but I don't know if financially he was making money. So it's a tough call for me to say.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I mean, you look at the shows that they did start drawing, but like as the product goes, John, like what did you think of the overall product of XPW?
To be honest, I always thought the production value would be better because usually like porn companies, they're like the onset or like the headline or like the front of the line of production. You ever notice that? Like so
Yeah.
many companies, and I've heard this from other companies, they steal from the porn industry, and you know what I mean? Like whatever the heck they're doing, they'll be like virtual reality or whatever, what like they'll be the first ones to do it. Then all of a sudden, oh, Meta is doing it. Facebook, like you see them being the front runners. I don't know how, but they always say like they were the first ones to do Blu-ray. They're the first ones to do 4K. They had the first DVD. They were always the front line. So I always expected their production value to be better. I know their announcing sometimes like wasn't big league to me. Something remember we were talking about last week, the and the whoa and the screaming and yelling and the nonsense. So I don't I always expected better, but then you look at some of the wrestlers in the card, like, yeah, they got some pretty good talent over here. But I don't know. Something didn't always click with me. It almost felt like ECW light.
You know what? And I always liked Chris Kloss, to be honest, the announcer that did the
Yeah.
screaming and stuff like that. And I almost I liked him. I thought he was cool. I thought he was funny. There was a couple of things that he did which I didn't really like, and the screeching was one. And the other thing that he would do, because like he would be in the ring, like doing a welcome to the show sort of thing before he hands it over to the ring announcer, and then he'd just be like, "Oh." And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, are you trying to get yourself over? Like, what the fuck is your purpose of being there and go, oh? It's
Right.
like, dude, really? Like, that's fucking lame as fuck. But again, if he was put up to it, because I have heard him say that they wanted him to go, oh my Jesus. They wanted to be ECW, or Paul, Rob wanted it to be ECW, but he was like, no fucking way in the world I'm doing that. You know, so.
Yeah. So even Rob apparently wanted to be almost ECW light or like some sort of, branch off from ECW. It just always felt like that way. Even extreme pro wrestling instead of extreme championship wrestling. It always felt like that.
Do you think, like XPW right now, they've made a comeback and they've brought it back because they got sold to Big Vision Entertainment in when I think probably
2003.
2003. Big Vision bought it. They ran a couple of like XPW memorial shows as well, which I find funny because they brought guys onto the show that never worked for XPW.
Yeah, that's always weird. Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Joey Ryan. Joey Ryan. Yeah, the guy, the Dick Flip guy. He
Yeah.
was
Yep.
he was on one of their shows. Scorpio Sky was on one of their shows. Necro Butcher was on one of their shows. Which Necro Butcher I find surprising because like seems like the kind of guy he'll go anywhere wherever he gets paid. You know what I mean? So I'm surprised XPW didn't actually reach out to him because I think that early 2000s he was one of the most over deathmatch guys in the world.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not a big deathmatch guy, and I don't like death matches, but I'll watch them sometimes. Depends on who's in it. If there's like a little bit of feud, I'll be interested. But for some reason, it's almost like high flyers. Jack Evans, he do the stupidest shit, the craziest bumps. But I was like, I give him a pass because he was such a good high flyer. Some guys you liked. For some reason, Necro Butcher, I always liked him. And he was just nuts. Like, he's not literally barefoot doing death match and stuff. Like, some reason I always was a fan of his. I can't even explain it. Like Jack Evans, I can't explain it. Like normally I wouldn't like those guys, but those two guys I always liked. It doesn't make sense, but I always loved him. There's something about him.
And you know what? He's actually a very intelligent guy. Like he's got a very, very high IQ. Like very, like extremely high IQ.
Big
Uh
baseball fan too.
yeah, from what I've heard, but like, dude, like some of the shit that he would do, like the punishment and the matches he would have. Like, did you remember seeing the match he and Loki had? And Loki just like kicked the shit out of him.
Yep.
Like just fucked him up. Um, you know, again, just crazy motherfuckers, bro. During that time frame, as well in XPW, where we saw Vic Grimes get thrown off a scaffold match.
Technically, if you look at that though, like, isn't that some sort of like, I know it's a wrestling match and stuff, but even New Jack admitted it. Like, he basically tasered him and threw him off, and was hoping he was going to die. Like, doesn't that fall in the company a little bit? Like, maybe these guys shouldn't be in the ring together, or on a scaffold together if they absolutely hate each other, and one guy's threatening to kill the other one. You know, does that fall on XPW's hands at all?
Well, XPW just turn around and say, "Hey, we're pro wrestling. It's all part of the story. This is just part of the gimmick."
He got lucky as hell the way he fell. I know
Dude,
he's a preacher now. God was with him that day. The way he fell was like almost perfect.
like
Oh, well, as perfect as you can be when you get thrown off a scaffold onto, 20 feet down onto a table. But it was like, man, if he moved like 2 inches to his right or to his left, he was done.
bro, it's crazy to think, man. Like, you know how lightly he got off. Like, I think he got a broken ankle out of like Vic got a broken ankle from that. But like, dude, we saw a lot of crazy bumps as well, like in XPW shows, and it always fascinated me because I was always like intrigued by deathmatch wrestling and crazy stunts because it's like, for me, it's like, what would be the reason to put yourself in that situation where you were 20 feet above the air and the spot is you're going to get thrown off this thing? Because it's like, if you're off a fucking inch, bro, you're dead, or you're a fucking vegetable, right? I never understood like the mentality of someone to go to that level to entertain someone. Like, to me, it's like, bro, like, hats off to the motherfuckers that done it. Hats off to the performers that do it. I'm just a fucking pussy, I guess. But to me, that is some crazy shit that they've done. And XPW did a lot of crazy shit, like a lot of high spots.
And they don't care how many people are watching or how many people are there. It's like, man, they got such a, I don't know, like love of the business or whatever you want to say, love of the craft, that they would sacrifice their bodies like that. And almost like, oh, 20 people are here, 200 people are here, 1,000 people. It didn't matter. They would just take crazy risks no matter what.
Well, they get paid the same amount no matter how many people are in the
That
crowd,
is
bro.
true too. That is true. Yeah.
But even then, like, how much, like, dude, there is not a fucking figure in the world that is going to convince me to go, hey, bro, you're going to have to climb up that fucking scaffold about 20 something feet in the air. You're going to go up there with New Jack, who fucking doesn't like you. And, bro, we're going to pray for the fucking best.
I wonder though if with that match in particular, I wonder if New Jack, like if there was any communications or if he just stunned him with the stun gun and then threw him off. Like I wonder if they were talking at all.
Do you think?
Didn't
Do you think? Do you think that the whole thing was a work, bro? Like, do
I
you
don't know
think it was
because
a
they
whole
interviewed New Jack. What is it? 20 years later, whatever it was, 19 years later, they interviewed New Jack, and he was basically saying, "I hated that motherfucker," and like I don't know, it just seemed like he was really trying to hurt him for whatever reason.
But that was New Jack in character, like that. That was all New Jack's whole gimmick was like, yeah, I hope that motherfucker, you know what I mean? Like, same as like the shit with mass transit, bro. I hope that motherfucker bleeds out. Um, that's what I'm saying. Like, could the whole thing have been a work? Yeah, bro, we're gonna do this. It's gonna look like I'm tasering him, and then I'm gonna fucking throw him
Oh,
off
it
the
could
scaffold.
be, yeah, it could be, but I don't know if you're Grimes and you're taking that bump. Like maybe he's like, dude, you got to taser me, or else it'll be, or I'm not jumping. You know what I mean? Like, all right,
Yeah,
I'll do it. You know what I mean? Just to get the like, I don't know, just to get the scare him straight thing. Electrocute him. He's in like a state of shock.
dude, I don't know, man. Like, it's so, like, if they had pre-planned it, like, that's the only, because like Vic Rhymes, right? Like, to go up there and go through that shit, bro, like, Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, how dumb could you be? Like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go up there with New Jack, who said he wants to fucking kill me, and we're gonna have a fucking barn burner of a match here.
Had a lot of people talking because I remember my buddy used to get all the VHS and the DVDs and stuff, and it's like, oh shit, you got to see this one. Yeah, you got to see Vic Grimes. This guy is nuts. They weren't really talking about New Jack as much, because it's like who's taking the crazy bumps. Like, wow, this guy Vic Grimes like has a death wish. He's freaking nuts. This guy's crazy.
But like, do you think like Vic had to take those bumps to get over?
It's hard to say. Like, do the guys think that, or is that actually true? You know what I mean? Like, did he really need to get over? Is that his only way of getting over? I don't know. I think some of the guys do believe, like, oh, this is my Mick Foley moment. Because remember Foley? I mean, Foley was always over, and he kind of didn't really need that moment. But that just put the final whatever signature on the petition or whatever you want to say. That really finally put it on there. Like, oh shit, Mick Foley. Like, you got to keep your eye on this. I think everybody was gunning for that Mick Foley moment, and they thought like this will get me over.
It's scary to think, man. Like what guys did in the early 2000s to get themselves over. Like it really is. It's funny. I remember Luke Hawks, who is a guy that I've been lucky enough to become friends with and hang out with when he was here in Australia. And he told me that he had heat in XPW because when he was to take a chair shot, he wrestled there as Alter Boy. He was to take a chair shot and he put his hands up. And when he got backstage, Rob goes, "What the fuck is that shit? You're putting your hands up and taking chair shots? We're men here. We take chair shots to the fucking brain." And Luke went, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot. Okay, cool, bro. Yeah, fuck that shit." And like even Luke, who was young in the business back then, was like, "Fuck this." You know what I mean? Like to put yourself in that situation. Nah, bro. Nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
he even did the deathmatch stuff and he didn't really want to do it. And they put the deathmatch belt on him. He was like, "Yeah, look, no, I didn't want to be known as a deathmatch guy." And the chair shot thing, that was kind of like, fuck this.
And I think it was Dark Side of the Ring was when they had that documentary about it. He talked about it, how basically the next time out, because he did that, Rob Black got his revenge. He literally crucified him or had him, tied up so he couldn't use it. Supreme nailed him on the head. There was no way to block it. He had his arm stuck, nowhere to go. So the next time out, he says, who knows if it's true, allegedly, that Rob ordered that he be hit directly on the head and make sure there was no way he was blocking it.
What a fucking scumbag, man!
If that's true, yeah. I don't know if I don't. I mean, it's hard not to believe Luke Hawks. I know Luke a little bit too. I don't think he'd make that up, but
great fucking shooter, really, isn't he?
yeah,
Like,
yep, very much so. Very much so.
It's interesting though, because I speak to guys like the Dead Presidents, and they got their gimmick, the whole Dead Presidents style gimmick, from Rob Black. So they went there and they said Rob was cool as fuck. They said he was one of the coolest motherfuckers ever. Like he was cool with them. He said, "Yeah, we got this gimmick we want you guys to do, the Dead Presidents, like the movie with the face paint and shit like that. That's gonna be your gimmick." And Lowrider and Boogie went there and worked for him, probably near the back end of XPW for a while. But it makes me wonder as well, because you never really saw a lot of XPW talent wrestling for like CZW or IWA Mid-South. If they basically said to their guys, "You can't wrestle anywhere else."
That is kind of one of those things too. It's like, all right, how can I make the most money I possibly can in the business? I could only work here. Like, you got to think about it for yourself. Like, that's never going to work out good for you unless the company is WWE, obviously, or AEW or some big promotion where they can afford it. And you're like, all right, I'll take less dates, which is fine, and make a shit ton of money. But doubt that's happening with XPW.
Yeah, dude. And you know what? Like on an independent level, no promotion can tell another,
No, definitely not.
This promotion, bro. Like if a company was to come and tell me that, say, "Hey, man, you can't go and do this for this promotion," blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yep. All right, bro, cool. I won't be at your show next week. Sorry. Because I just, you know what I mean? Like you can't, this shit at this level of independence and stuff like that, it's all about the love of the game and the fun of it, bro. And if you get like giving ultimatums like that. It's kind of like, well, fuck this. You know what I mean? Like it ain't
Yep.
worth it.
Do you think that Luke was mad at Rob, or you think he's mad at Supreme, or both for kind of taking liberties?
I think he'd probably be mad at. I think he'd probably be mad at both, really, because Supreme was the one that swung it. He could have just went, "Nah, fuck you," and I don't know, man. Like in that situation, it depends. Like if this was a pre-planned thing and like they're backstage, they're discussing it, and you know, what I mean, Supreme, hey, you've got to do this, blah blah blah. What I would have done if that was the case and it was all planned out is like just not be able to latch one of his hands, and then when the chair, you know what I mean. So then he's kind of just hanging there like that. So
Yep.
then you can sort of like he can eat the chair shot with his shoulder because like from what my understanding was like Supreme was he was one of the boys, like he was a pretty stand-up dude. So you know I would have loved to have heard his opinion on that matter and to see if what he's thought was like, hey, this is fucked up, or you know what I mean. Like from what I've heard about him, I don't think he would have been like, yeah, fuck this kid. Like I think he was one of the boys where it was like, I don't know, man. It's putting words in his mouth, so I can't really do that. But you know,
He probably thought it
unfortunately,
was just a regular old spot in a crazy XPW match. You know what I mean? Like they're coming off balconies, they're coming off
yeah.
scaffolds. Oh, he's probably just going to tie that guy's hands up and smash him with a chair. Like I don't know. I can't see it being nefarious because so many of those guys were taking unprotected chair shots and doing all the crazy bumps and stuff. So he probably thought it was another night in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing because it could have done because he was definitely one of the more violent guys. But Supreme as a worker, what are your thoughts on him?
Was never really a big fan. I know he was over, so you got to give him credit because it's hard to be over no matter where you are. If you're over, you're over. You know what I mean? If you're a star somewhere, you're probably over. So to me, never a big fan of his. Never a big deathmatch guy. Never really got into him, but got to give credit where credit's due. He was over. He was a good as far as being a deathmatch wrestler. He was good, and obviously big time for XPW. He was like their boy, basically.
I feel like guys like Joey Chaos and Messiah were probably two of the guys that had the best chance or possibility of making it to WWE from XPW. As far as like XPW originals and guys coming through.
You know, I went to a CZW show. Well, I went to a bunch of them, but I went to one, and Messiah wins the title. And for some reason, Zandig, I know doesn't have anything to do with anything, but I always laugh at it. And I always text my buddy about it. He gets on the mic and he just goes, Messiah, Messiah. So you're thinking like, okay, is this a feud? What the hell is going on with Zandig here? And he goes, I'm sorry, you won't have your new world championship tonight because he won the world belt. And they
Yeah.
were supposedly going to introduce a new belt. He goes, championship leather fucking screwed me. So you have to give you the old title for the. I was laughing. I'm like, you think it's going to be some angle? He's yelling, Messiah, Messiah. Like, oh, okay, oh shit, okay, something about to happen. He goes, sorry, you don't get your new belt tonight. Championship leather screwed me. So it's like, why? Like that just ruined the win. Like it ruined everything. Who gives a shit about championship leather? Mention that behind the scenes or something. But I don't know. I always laugh at that whenever I think of Messiah. Obviously, I mean, you think of the thumb or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
I always think of that, like Zandig yelling at him that he can't give him a new world title, an actual physical belt that night because championship leather screwed him.
You know what's funny? I actually watched that show not
Oh,
long ago. I was actually watching that show not long ago. I was like, fucking hell, man, the belt manufacturer's got heat with Zandig.
yeah, yeah. Makes no sense to bring it up though on air, unless I guess you just really wanted to bury the championship leather. I guess. I mean, geez.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's interesting to take because it's like, you know, Messiah who was in XPW went to CZW. He really became like a mainstay of
Yeah,
CZW
big
for
time.
quite a few years. And again, like the matches that opened up for him going over there were sick. You know what I mean? Like some of the angles that they got to do, the meat hooks with Zandig was a little bit too much for my liking, to be honest.
Yeah,
That was like, oh, that's pretty fucking, you know, that's some snuff film type shit.
yeah,
Um, but as far as XPW goes, man, like when they had the legal trouble with Extreme Associates, and that was kind of the downfall for them. But also, man, like Rob had other guys working behind the scenes, right?
yeah. But I don't know, like with all that legal stuff that's going on, and you're doing all this other stuff. shouldn't you have separated the wrestling from the porn? Or and I interviewed him. And I was trying to get it out of her, trying to ask him about it, like if you separated wrestling from the porn, would you have gotten like the porn and yourself in trouble, but saved XPW and the wrestling? But he was saying there is no difference because the porn was basically the financial backing of the wrestling, so you had to combine both of them, which means a legal problem was going to follow the wrestling promotion because it was involving the porn.
It was
So I mean,
financial.
yeah, so they were like tied together. He was screwed no matter what with the legal issues. So as long as there was legal issues, there was going to be no more XPW as far as financially.
That's bro. That's some wild and crazy shit. Because like I remember hearing an interview that Shane did, where Shane Douglas did, where he said he told Rob, "You need to fucking separate the two. You
Right.
can't have this being there." Do you like? Why do you think that Shane wanted to have the wrestling separate? Is it because you think that the porn came with a bad reputation?
I think that, and it's like, okay, we can't be so reliant on that because if the porn thing or something happens, the wrestling's fucked. And that's exactly what happened. The porn stuff happened and the wrestling got fucked. And I think he thought it was like bad reputation for sure as well, because it was like, okay, we're kind of teeter-tottering here. I know it's extreme, but like not extreme porn. Like we want to keep it wrestling. So he was definitely trying to separate it, even taking it to Philly and that side. I think was his attempt at keeping it separate with porn on the West Coast and the wrestling on the East Coast. But obviously, it didn't work out that way, and that's not the way Rob could have financially backed. Like he would said, the wrestling wasn't making enough money. The porn was the one making all the money.
Looking at XPW's booking, what would you think? Like, what are your thoughts on their booking?
I always just thought like. I don't know, like okay, you bring in like Sabu and New Jack and Terry Funk, great names. It's great to have, but it's like okay, again, it's just an ECW retread, ECW light. Even Shane comes in and Cody Michaels, and they're trying to book it, but it never, I don't know, it never got going. It never got like when you're booking a hot angle like NWO or Austin versus Vince, they never had like that hot angle where it's like, oh, we got to see the show, and everything else snowballs behind it. I feel like the booking never got like a good footing. Like, okay, you bring a Hooven to it, but never, you bring in Vampiro. I don't know, never got going to me. I feel like their booking was always lacking.
And I think I said this on the first episode. One of the things I found extremely entertaining was like, and I've become friends with Billy, aka the Messiah. Was his whole gimmick coming in, bro? Was like he's gonna be the moral crusader for
Yeah.
XPW, right? He's this guy. He's the fucking Holy Spirit, bro. And then he joins up with the Black Army, which is about fucking big tits and violence, you know what I mean, and porn, and then he's associated with these guys. He becomes the deathmatch champion, you know what I mean, you know what I mean. He should have been like this, like anti-crusader by himself or with a stable. Like I just felt like that style of the booking didn't really make a lot of sense for me because it's like you're contradicting yourself in your booking.
Like he was supposed to be this one thing, and they're like, "Yeah, let's just jumble him in, throw him in with everybody else." I hate that too because it's just like AW does it now sometimes too. It's like don't put everybody together and just make it. You know what I mean? Like he would have been so much different, and Messiah kind of stood out anyway. But I think if he would have done that gimmick, would have been awesome. I think he would have got tremendous heat because the crowd would have wanted to see certain things, and he's the moral crusader. He
Yeah.
would have stood out. You got to do stuff like that, cool stuff that separates you from the bunch.
And I think as well, like even his ring attire, like he came out with black tracksuits and a black t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, this isn't an insult to him by any means. I just felt like they could have, you know
That's
what I mean?
not the
And I
gimmick.
think,
That's not the Messiah
yeah,
gimmick. Yeah.
but as well, bro, like if you look at what independent wrestling was back at that time, bro, everyone was wearing black tearaway pants,
Yes.
bro.
Yep.
Everyone was wearing a fucking
Yep.
Adidas or a Nike shirt,
Yep.
taped up wrists, taped up hands, whatever. You know what I mean? Everybody was kind of like, you know what I mean? The professionalism in indie wrestling was like, is it there? Like there were some guys that did it and a majority of guys that did it, but there was like a few that would just be like, and I feel like that's where Billy was with his gimmick, was like the Messiah. And I even thought of it back then. I'm like, shouldn't you come out in maybe something a little bit different, like really embellish this character a bit more? Where I just felt like it was more of, oh yeah, his name is Messiah, but like he's just another wrestler. You know what I mean?
he should have came out in all white and not, the generic stuff. Like he should have, had something to be completely different, and even, maybe a big, Jesus like robe or something. You know what I mean? Like you got to come out in the gimmick. So many guys. Oh my god, that was like the joke at that point. All the black, and the black outfit. Like that's so indie-rific for that time period.
Oh, dude. But you know what? Like, I can even imagine, like, it's like after he's just won a death match, right? Like, just sitting there and just putting their hands out like that and going, forgive them, Father. For, you know what I mean? Or some shit like that, where it's like, I put my body here because I am the savior, the Messiah, or some shit like that. To do that after a match where you've got that visual effect of the white and the blood coming down, like, again, I think that's probably what the difference is between indie booking and high level booking. Really, is like, Rob Black, did he really understand what good wrestling booking was or psychology was? Like, I know he comes like he jumps around like he's the fucking baddest motherfucker in the world and he's this and he's that, but in reality, is he a good booker?
Tough to say. I mean, I think you got to be. I don't know. I always think you got to be like a wrestling person. I know that's why he brought Shane in to try to do that. Like, he kind of realized that you're not a wrestling person. You're just a guy throwing matches together. That's not really booking. You know what I mean? It's got to have some angles to it and everything else. So, I feel like he never got a good footing for the booking at all.
And that's the thing. I think when you're booking, you have to be able to like step back and go like, okay, is this going to be good for business? Or is this me just being a mark? Like I was watching I watched a couple of XPW shows last night from the early 2000s, just because I wanted to reminisce. And it's like both shows were him opening up where he's like walking around like he's the baddest motherfucker around. And it's like, dude, like really? Like you know what I mean? Like, why not have your show open up a different way where it's like, okay, cool, I get you're trying to get yourself over as a cool heel, but like, I don't know, like his stuff on the microphone just like, to be honest, Rob Black as a character never really appealed to me. It just felt like this is a guy who was just wanting to put himself on a show.
Like a wannabe Paul Heyman, but obviously not as good on the mic. I mean, Heyman's great on the mic, so that's what he was going for, I think.
Oh, dude, Heyman's fucking untouchable on the mic, and he has been for years, bro. Like, but that's the difference. Heyman has been in the business since a 12, 11-year-old kid taking fucking photos, whereas Rob Black came from a porn industry going, hey, I want to win a fucking crossover award. Let's give it a crack.
Yeah. It's tough, like to be honest, like getting the business from completely another realm, another field. But like you're a fan, you think you know what you're doing. Oh, I created dead presidents. I can create, I can create cool gimmicks that I can kind of like adapt from here or there. That's not booking. You know what I mean? You may have a good idea here or there. You may be able to put wrestler A versus wrestler B, but that's not booking.
No, and I feel like XPW did have some interesting storylines. One match in particular that I really found interesting was the Terry Funk versus Shane Douglas match, where like Terry Funk like gigged himself, like broke a bottle, and it was
Yeah.
like
What?
he cut himself so fucking badly. And I've heard Shane on multiple fucking shows talking about this, where it's like Terry basically saying Terry went into business for himself, and the two almost got into a fucking fist fight.
Yep. And he did that gig thing where it's literally the worst possible spot. Like he went like this on his own arm. Remember that? He was like why the heck you never cut yourself here?
Right,
So it's
right,
like,
right.
oh, that was gross.
I, I,
And with a
I thought that was
broken bottle.
I thought that was an accident. Like he cut himself on accident.
Honestly, if you watch it back, it almost looked like he like does it on purpose. It's so weird. And Shane always says he went into business for stuff. No idea. It was never discussed. No idea what he was doing. Acted like Shane did it. It's very weird.
And also he did a thing where he pulled Lizzie Borden's like G string off as well or some shit.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, he was. I don't know if he was. I don't know. Maybe paid by 3PW to do to destroy the show. I don't know what the hell was going on. Very weird.
Especially for someone like Terry Funk, who was like so much about giving back to the business.
But also middle aged and crazy. You never know what he's going to do. I can't even put a finger on like what the hell was going on. Shane really couldn't either, except for he just said he went to business for himself. But like, for what reason? He just like Why would you do that? It wasn't planned or anything. He just lost it.
But I feel like if you're gonna go into business for yourself, and maybe, and this is a thing where Funk just went, all right, Shane has said no to doing these spots. Fuck it, I'm gonna do them anyway. And it's Shane. I've known him for X amount of years. I'll just say sorry afterwards, and Shane will be cool. Do you think that could have been the possibility? It's like, he said no, but fuck it, we'll do it. We'll do it. Yeah.
Never know with Terry Funk. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when he gets out there, he's so unpredictable. Even the guy he's working with has no idea what he's going to do next. Could be. I mean, him and Shane had some great matches in ECW. So I mean, they had good chemistry. They knew each other well. Could have been just him calling an audible and saying, "Fuck it, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want."
I mean, dude, like I still remember the blood in that match was just something ridiculous, and
Yeah, his arm was disgusting. Yeah.
like, but dude, like I really feel like when you have someone like a Shane Douglas booking your shows for you, who I think Shane has probably got I think him and Raven have probably two of the most underrated guys in professional wrestling history by far. By far, and both are come across as very intelligent guys, very knowledgeable about the business, the ins and outs of it. Two guys that just really, really fucking get it, right? I'm just thinking, if you can't succeed with Shane Douglas as your booker and as your champion in 2001, 2002, 2003, are you listening to him? Because
Probably
like
not.
I've heard him, he sent shows in order and saying, right, this is, and run sheets like segment 1 is this, segment 2 is this, segment 3 is this. So everything made sense for the show. But then when he would sit there and watch it on TV, he's like, oh shit, they put segment 2, they put segment 7 where it's supposed to be they put it in segment 4 where it was supposed to be back here. Then they put segment 1, which is in segment 6, and then they mix matched over it where it's like, you know what I mean? Like you sit there and watch like XPW TV and go, what the fuck? And it's not that I think that it was bad booking, it was just bad post-production.
Yep, he said he would send in the sheets and everything of like how he wanted it to be done, and they were doing, I guess, the editing on the West Coast. He's in the East Coast. He's everything, so they clearly were not listening to him. They clearly weren't doing what he was saying. I don't know if it was on purpose, not on purpose, somebody not paying attention. But you're right; they'd have an interview that should have been second of the guy accepting the match that was first. You know what I mean? It's like so many things that Shane would say was always screwed up like that. Segment 2 would be in segment 7. Segment 7 would be in segment 2. It wouldn't flow. There was nothing to the show that they were supposed to thread something to the show. It didn't thread. Like he was basically saying they never listened to anything, and that was like the beginning and end. The production value, as far as post production, was terrible.
It's dude, it is fucking ridiculous that they didn't listen to someone who's in the, like, you know what I mean? Like you're a porn company, you've got these amazing production people, you've got all this. Why not? Like, even like I think Dave Marquez said when he was breaking into the business, he was like editing porn videos. And I think Smiley,
Ryan
Katz was the same way.
It's funny, Rob Black was saying, "Oh, that's not true," but Marquez is going to make it up. I don't think so. He was saying, like, "No, I really did. I had edited porn and stuff." So, obviously, I know people want to say what they will, but he had to do it to work there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, and you got to do what you got to do, man, when you want to be involved in this business, bro.
And they were saying like they thought they were going to be going shooting some wrestling stuff, and all of a sudden there's like porn going on. Like nobody knows the hell's going on. People are pissing on each other. There crazy shit's going on. There's blood here and there. It's just what a wacky organization.
Well, it's better to be pissed on than pissed off. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, relax there, fans.
Relax there, guys. Don't lose your shit too early. But yeah, dude, like starting to wrap things up here, but overall XPW now making a comeback. Do you think it's them just like, do you think it's Rob just trying to cash in on Dark Side of the Ring? And also like deathmatch wrestling right now is pretty fucking big.
I don't know, because it feels like if he thinks he can make money doing it and feels like he was slighted on the original XPW run, it's almost like Vince in the XFL to an extent. Like, oh man, we should have made money with that. It didn't work out. Obviously, XFL it completely bombed even worse again the second time around. But if like Rob had that same feeling, where it's like, man, we could have made money. We still should have been running. This is my second chance. And then he sees like Fight TV. Oh, I can be on Fight TV. I can get money. Like he sees different avenues of revenue streams, and he's almost probably thinking to himself, like, okay, if I do it this and tweak this, I can get Brian Cage and Taya Valkyrie, and like you get some stars on the show, and I
Yeah,
can be on
yeah,
Fight TV. Death matches are, they're kind of hot a little bit right now. You're seeing certain things. I think Jericho and Eddie Kingston are going to have a death match, if I heard that correctly, for AEW. So I mean, even the big leagues like Jericho, Nick Gage had one
yeah.
too. It's like, okay, everybody's catching on a little bit to the deathmatch scene. And obviously GCW is very popular right now. They're hot, so he probably sees like, man, here's my chance. I'm going to run with it one more time. I'm going to try it and try to make some money. I feel like maybe he thinks that this is the right time and perfect timing, and maybe a good point in his life to kind of resurrect XPW.
Yeah, I mean, why not, dude? Try and make some money. It's another place for the people involved in the world of the business
Make
to
some money.
make a bit of extra money as well with another promotion. My only thing is their deathmatch tournament. They did California, bro. I can't sit down and watch 8 out like 7.5 hours, bro.
Hell
And you know
no.
what?
Yeah.
Like, you have to give huge fucking shout out to fucking Chris Kloss calling a 7 hour fucking show, bro. Like,
Wow.
dude, and doing it solo, dude. I've done commentary for quite a few promotions, and I recently did a solo commentary for a show which was 2.5 to 3 hours doing solo commentary, and I was fucking fried after that. Doing it for nearly 8 hours, bro. That is a huge fucking pat on the back to Mr. Kloss. Like, I appreciate that shit. That is fucking next level. My thing is, bro, when I sit down to watch a show, whether it's on Fight TV, IWTV, or even the WWE Network, I'm never going to sit down and watch 8 hours of wrestling, bro. Like, I don't sit down and watch 3 hours of Monday Night Raw every single week. I don't do it. I watch the recap of 90 minutes on Hulu.
That was like WrestleMania. Remember that one year? What was it? WrestleMania? Was it 35? It was like 8.5 hours. Like that was rough. I mean, and,
Can't
and
do it,
I'm
man.
and I'm getting up. I'm going to the bed. I mean, I'm not paying attention. I'm not watching the women's matches. Like I'm doing whatever. Like to check. Like I'm like this shit's still going on. So literally, the main event came on. It was the was it Rousey, Charlotte, and Becky, or for whatever. I didn't even watch. That was it was too much. I couldn't watch wrestling for that long, and I
Well,
love
you
it.
got
I mean, I've been watching it forever. I couldn't do it. That's crazy.
it, but imagine being at a live show, right? That goes 7, 8 hours.
Holy fuck! I
Say the
remember
show, say
ROH
the
a few times when 5 hours. Me and my
but
buddy were like exhausted.
But imagine that, like you go to a wrestling show, right? Starts at 7 o'clock. You're thinking, all right, cool. I'm going to be out of here. 15-minute intermission. I'm out of here in 3 hours, right? That's the fucking thing. Unless you stay over, you're signing, you're getting photos or whatever the shit. But if I went to a show which started at 7 o'clock and I'm leaving at 3 a.m., I'd be like, what the fuck, dude? Maybe when like 10, 15 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, what the fuck ever. But now at 40 years, like you're the same age as me, John. At 40 years of age, going to a show like going for that entirety, for that time frame, too much, bro. Too much.
Man, I went to a show not that long ago, and it was like it started at 7, and it was like 11:30, and I was like, and the main event wasn't even starting. They were like starting some other match. I'm like, dude, I was like, I'm out of here. Like, this is crazy. Like, that's just it's too much wrestling. I would have left. I was surprised they had any fans that stayed 8 hours. Like, that's crazy. That's too much.
But from what my understanding was, XPW, the reason why it took so long, bro, was because they were setting up the gimmicks. So maybe like it's just a production thing, lesson learned. Okay, no worries. We got to have this shit ready. We got to fucking do run throughs. How we get this done quicker? But like, bro, it's on Fight TV, 7.5 hours, man.
Yeah. Yep.
I sat down to watch it, to start to watch it, but I know, bro, it's probably going to take me 4, 5, maybe even 6 or 7 sessions to get through that show for an 8 hour
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. That's insane. That's way, way, way too long.
But that's the same with like a pay-per-view, bro. Like 3-4 hours for a show, bro. It's gonna take me 3-4 days to get through it. Like I just don't have the time to sit there and watch 4 or 5 hours of wrestling.
Yeah, no. It's rough.
But
That
sorry.
3-hour pay-per-view. Perfect.
I think so as well. I think even like Monday Night Raw, 90 minutes. 90 minutes, 2 hours. Keep it at that.
Well, Raw's terrible, so yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But it is time for us to start wrapping things up. Mr. John, fucking pause. Why don't you tell everyone what you got coming up and where people can find you on social media?
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com, and Patreon, patreon.com/tmptempire. Got a couple of good interviews lined up, and there hopefully everything comes through. Some good stuff coming in, some former AEW talent, some current Impact talent, and some wrestling legends coming down the pike.
Ooh. Make sure you tune in for the 2-Man Power Trip. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Piers Austin, on Instagram at the Piers Austin. I've got a couple of shows coming up, interviews, former ECW and WWE star coming up, and I've also got a former WWE Tag Team Champion coming up. And I also have on some amazing Australian talent coming up. So make sure you tune into those conversations on the MWA Podcast Network. But without further ado, huge shout out to our sponsors, healthvape.com and sleeps.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. As for John and myself, we'll see you again next week with the Kingpin returning. But guys, until then, take care. All the best. Peace.
Peace. We're out of here.